Hello and welcome to Rajshabha TV. I'm Tina Jha with News Tonight, where we get you the day's biggest news stories from across India and the world. Let's begin with the headlines. All-party meeting discusses tensions on Indo-China border. Defence Minister Rajnath Singh to give a statement about the Indian Army's preparations in Rajshabha tomorrow. There's been a reduction in infiltration and terrorist incidents after the abolition of Article 370 in Jammu and Kashmir. Home Ministry says in a written reply in Rajya Sabha, 168 terrorists killed in Kashmir till the 8th of September this year. Rajya Sabha passes the Ayurveda Teaching and Research Institute Bill 2020. Many members underscore the need to tackle the problem of quackery in the field. Chairman M. Venkaiah Naidu requests the Health Minister to consider setting up an Ayurveda Research Institute in every state. The Upper House holds a discussion on Health Minister's statement regarding the COVID-19 pandemic and the steps taken by the government. From the public health system to the administration's response, members cover various aspects of the outbreak across the country. And Lok Sabha passes the Banking Regulation Amendment Bill 2020. Bill seeks to extend RBI supervision to cooperative banks to improve their governance and protecting depositors' money. The government on Wednesday called an all-party meet to chalk out a strategy for smooth functioning of the monsoon session of Parliament. Discussion on the border tensions between India and China were also held. Defence Minister Rajnath Singh will make a statement on the India-China border issue in the Rajya Sabha on Thursday. Apart from this, the meeting agenda also included discussion on important bills that need to be passed in the ongoing session. The meeting was attended by Defence Minister Rajnath Singh and several other cabinet ministers, including Piyush Goyal, Prahlad Joshi, Thawar Chand Gehlot, among others. From the Congress, Anand Sharma and Ghulam Nabi Azad were present, along with several other opposition leaders. The government on Wednesday said there's been no infiltration along the Sino-India border in the last 6 months, while 47 infiltration bids have been reported along the India-Pakistan border during the period. The Union Home Ministry also informed the Rajya Sabha that 594 attempts of infiltration into Jammu and Kashmir by Pakistani militants have been reported in the last 3 years, of which 312 were successful. In a written reply to a question, Minister of State for Home Nityanand Rai said, in the last 3 years, 582 terrorists were killed in Jammu and Kashmir, while 46 terrorists were arrested during the period. And Parliament on Wednesday approved the Institute of Teaching and Research in Ayurveda Bill 2020 on Wednesday after the Upper House passed it. The Lok Sabha had passed the bill in the previous budget session. The bill paves the way for establishment of an Institute of Teaching and Research in Ayurveda in Jamnagar, Gujarat. Health and Family Welfare Minister Dr. Harshvardhan, who piloted the bill in the Lok Sabha, said it was a big initiative to take Ayurveda to an international platform. He also asserted that special emphasis will be placed on research in the field for better recognition and acceptance across the world.
Sir, on every parameter, we can most objectively certify and say that right now, this is probably the #1 institution which deserves this status. I can only say, sir, that it is a very humble beginning. So I'm sure once we make this humble beginning with one institution, which will catch the attention of the international community also because of the work that it is already doing, which has got international recognition in so many fields, This will make a very good beginning for other institutions to grow up in their stature so that they can later on in future be considered by the Parliament for giving the stature.
The bill provides for conglomerating the cluster of Ayurveda institutes at Gujarat Ayurveda University campus Jamnagar, Institute for Postgraduate Teaching and Research in Ayurveda Shri Gulab Kunwarba Ayurveda Mahavidyalaya, and Institute of Ayurveda Pharmaceutical Sciences, including Pharmacy Unit. The Institute of National Importance will be a center to promote quality and excellence in education, research and training in the field of Ayurveda and allied disciplines. Rajshabha Chairman M. Venkaiah Naidu requested the Union Health Minister to consider the demand to set up an Ayurveda Research Institute in every state.
Honourable Minister, there is a demand for setting up a research institute of Ayurveda in every state. Please keep that in mind. The cost, no, really, you observed every member was saying that shows the importance of the subject as well as their interest in this traditional. Every state for that matter. I don't want to take your time. Kerala, Tamil Nadu, Karnataka, Maharashtra, and Bengal. Every state has got its own speciality.
The Rajshabha held a discussion on the statement made by Health Minister Dr. Harshvardhan on Tuesday regarding the COVID-19 pandemic and the steps taken by the government. Initiating the discussion, Congress MP Anand Sharma urged the government to speak to states about improving the public health system. BJP member Vinay Sahasrabuddhe said chief ministers were consulted numerous times during the decision-making process and also the implementation of lockdown. Members across party lines took part in the discussion.
Pass on our condolences to every single health worker, doctor, nurse, police, to their families who have lost their lives. And first, the people who have been in the front line and those who have lost their lives in this pandemic.
And economically, as some of the members are pointing out, our position is the lowest. So far the GDP is concerned during the corona time, our economic suffering is concerned during the economic setback is concerned, I think we are the lowest in the world. And so far as this epidemic is concerned, we are going to the first position.
Any other countries have declared so many packages up to 21% of the GDP. Our package contains only 1% of the GDP or other amounts from banks. Government has not put any assistance to the state governments.
Sir, we can, by way of experience and by way of the statements and all other statistics that are available, we are in a very precarious condition. Sir, India is crossing 50 lakh active cases today. And the mortality rate yesterday was 80,000 and today it is 82,000. Sir, may I humbly say, sir, the life of a human being has become so insignificant that they are just a number in this world today.
The Lok Sabha on Wednesday passed the Banking Regulation Amendment Bill 2020 by voice vote. The bill seeks to amend the Banking Regulation Act 1949. Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman said amendments to the banking regulation law seeking to extend the supervision of RBI to cooperative banks are aimed at improving their governance and also protecting depositors' money. She said that in the past 2 years, depositors of cooperatives and small banks have been put through various hardships.
Does not provide for regulation of cooperative banks by the central government. ये बिल बिल्कुल ये अमेंडमेंट का मतलब नहीं है कि केंद्र सरकार सभी कोऑपरेटिव बैंक के ऊपर निगरानी रखेगी। अमेंडमेंट इसके लिए नहीं है, गलतफहमी नहीं होना चाहिए। दूसरा, ये कोऑपरेटिव बैंक्स का आज क्या हो गया, आपने क्यों रेगुलेशन करके आरबीआई के हाथ में सौंपना चाह रहे हैं? क्षमा कीजिए सर, कोऑपरेटिव बैंक्स का रेगुलेशन आरबीआई के द्वारा 1965 से ऑलरेडी हो रही है। हम नया कुछ नहीं कर रहे हैं, मगर कुछ नया जो कर रहे हैं वो डिपॉजिटर्स के हित के लिए कर रहे हैं।
Lok Sabha MP from Tirupati, Bali Durga Prasad Rao, passed away on Wednesday at Apollo Hospital in Chennai. He was elected to the Lok Sabha from Tirupati in Andhra Pradesh in the 2019 general election as a member of the YSR Congress Party. Reacting to his death, President Ramnath Kovind said, Bali Durga Prasad Rao worked tirelessly for the welfare of the people of Andhra Pradesh. In a Twitter message, Vice President M. Venkaiah Naidu said he was saddened to learn about the sudden demise of Bali Durga Prasad Rao. Lok Sabha Speaker Om Birla also expressed his condolences. While Prime Minister Narendra Modi in a Twitter message said he was an experienced leader who made effective contributions towards the progress of Andhra Pradesh. Labour Minister Santosh Kumar Gangwar said on Wednesday that the government has undertaken a number of unprecedented steps for labour welfare and employment generation during the COVID-19 pandemic. In a statement, he listed the initiatives taken for the welfare of the labour force, including the migrant workers, during the nationwide lockdown. Here's a report.
Union Labour Minister Santosh Kumar Gangwar released a statement on Wednesday detailing the various efforts of the central government towards the welfare of the labour force, including migrant workers, during the coronavirus-induced lockdown. He informed that immediately after the lockdown, the Ministry of Labour and Employment directed all states and union territories to provide financial assistance to construction workers. It is estimated that the highest proportion of migrant workers are construction workers. Till date, about 2 crore migrant workers have been provided financial assistance directly in their bank accounts. During lockdown, the government set up 20 control rooms across the country, which resolved over 15,000 complaints of workers, and more than 2 lakh workers were paid their due wages amounting to 295 crore rupees. After the lockdown, Pradhan Mantri Garib Kalyan Yojana with a financial package of 1.7 lakh crore rupees was launched to help the poor, the needy and the unorganized sector workers. Under this package, 80 crore people have been provided 5 kilograms of wheat and rice and 1 kilogram of pulses. Food grains will now be provided free of cost up to November 2020 to all beneficiaries. Per day wages under Manrega have been enhanced from 182 rupees to 202 rupees. Further, the government has launched the PM Swanidhi scheme to facilitate collateral-free working capital loan up to 10,000 rupees of 1-year tenure to approximately 50 lakh street vendors to resume their businesses. To facilitate employment of migrant workers who have returned to their home states, the Pradhan Mantri Garib Kalyan Rozgar Abhiyan has been initiated in 116 districts in mission mode. A 20 lakh crore rupees financial package under Atmanirbhar Bharat has been launched specifically to create employment opportunities for migrant workers, workers of unorganized sector, strengthening of MSME sector and promoting rural economy. Bureau Report, Rajshabha TV.
And let's now take a look at the coronavirus situation in the country. COVID-19 infections in India crossed 50 lakh after over 90,000 cases were reported on Wednesday morning. It was also a day when the highest number of deaths were reported in the last 24 hours.
Novel coronavirus infections in India crossed 50 lakh on Wednesday morning after 90,123 new cases were reported in the last 24 hours. 1,290 fresh deaths were reported, the highest so far in a day. Total deaths attributed to the pandemic so far number 82,066. There are 9,95,933 active cases, while 39.42 lakh people have recovered. The recovery rate is 78.28%. Maharashtra, Andhra Pradesh, Tamil Nadu, Karnataka and Uttar Pradesh reported the highest single-day increase in cases on Wednesday. Andhra Pradesh and Karnataka reported more recoveries than fresh cases in the last 24 hours. On a day when India reported the highest single-day deaths, Maharashtra registered 515 deaths, followed by Uttar Pradesh with 113 deaths. Karnataka also reported 97 deaths. Punjab too continues to report a high number of deaths. The state reported 90 deaths in the last 24 hours. Andhra Pradesh and Tamil Nadu reported close to 70 deaths each. India detected its first COVID-19 case on 30th January. Cases rose to 1 lakh in 110 days, 10 lakh in 59 days, 20 lakh in 21 days, 30 lakh in 16 days, 40 lakh in 13 days, and 10 lakh cases were added in India in the last 11 days alone to take the total from 40 lakh to 50 lakh. India is testing nearly 42,000 samples per million population on average. Over 5.94 crore samples have been tested so far, including over 11.16 lakh samples on Tuesday. The test positivity rate was 8.5%, which is higher than 7.7% that was recorded a week ago. According to WHO, TPR needs to be below 5% to control the spread of the disease. At 2%, cases in India are growing at the fastest pace globally, followed by the United States, where the growth rate is 0.6%, and Brazil at 0.9%. The average global growth rate is 1.1%. Globally, more than 29.27 million people have been infected and 9.26 lakh people have died. Over 21.5 million people have recovered so far. Bureau Report, Rajshabha TV.
Minister of State for Health Ashwini Choube informed the Rajya Sabha in a written reply on Tuesday that Phase 1 clinical trials have revealed excellent safety of the 2 candidate vaccines indigenously developed by the Bharat Biotech along with ICMR and the Cadila Healthcare Limited. He said that their immunogenicity testing is now in progress. He also stated that ICMR and SII have partnered for clinical development of a vaccine being made by Novavax from USA. The trial will be initiated in the second half of October after the vaccine is manufactured by the Serum Institute of India. Choube further informed the House that discussions about collaborations on the recombinant vaccine developed by Russia are underway. Meanwhile, the Drugs Controller General of India has given permission to the Serum Institute of India to resume clinical trial of the Oxford COVID-19 vaccine candidate in the country. The DCGI has, however, put certain conditions like taking extra care during screening, providing additional information for informed consent, and close monitoring for adverse events during follow-up of the study. The approval comes just days after AstraZeneca and Oxford University resumed clinical trials of COVID-19 vaccine in the United Kingdom after a brief safety pause because of an unexplained illness in one participant. The Russian Direct Investment Fund has meanwhile collaborated with Indian pharma giant Dr. Reddy's Laboratories to conduct clinical trials of the Sputnik V vaccine as well as its distribution. The RDIF is in talks with Indian regulators to ensure that all the requirements for clinical trials are being met. Sputnik V has been developed by the Gamaleya National Research Centre of Epidemiology and Microbiology and RDIF. We'll slip into a short break here, but more news and updates will continue on the other side. Do stay with us.
Watch The Big Picture with me, Vishal Dahiya, at 9:30 p.m. on Rajshabha TV.
Welcome back. You're watching News Tonight. Pakistan has a habit of maligning India with false and fabricated narratives for its self-serving malicious purposes. This was stated by Pawan Kumar, India's first secretary in the UN Permanent Mission in Geneva. The Indian diplomat used the first right to reply against the Pakistani representative's statement mentioning India. He charged Pakistan with facilitating a mass influx of outsiders to whittle down the number of Kashmiris to an insignificant number in the Pakistan-occupied parts of Indian Union territories of Jammu and Kashmir and Ladakh. The Indian diplomat also highlighted the plight of people in Balochistan, Khyber Pakhtunkhwa and Sindh. He said, not a single day ends without members of a family in Balochistan being picked up or kidnapped by a Pakistani security agency or Pakistani security forces.
It has become a habit for Pakistan to malign my country with false and fabricated narratives for its self-serving malicious purposes. Neither India nor others deserve this unsolicited lecture on human rights from a country that has consistently persecuted its ethnic and religious minorities, is an epicenter of terrorism, has the distinction of providing pensions to the individuals on the UN sanctions list, and as a Prime Minister who proudly admits training tens of thousands of terrorists to fight in Jammu and Kashmir. It is not surprising that other relevant multilateral institutions have been raising serious concerns on its failure to stop terror financing and lack of effective actions against all terror entities in Pakistan.
RBI Governor Shaktikant Das assured the industry that the central bank will take any and every measure to ensure liquidity and promote economic growth. In his address at the FICCI National Executive Committee meeting, the RBI Governor said the immediate policy response to COVID-19 has been to prioritize stabilization of economy and support quick recovery.
The Reserve Bank of India will take whatever steps that are needed to be taken for the economy, RBI Governor Shaktikant Das asserted on Wednesday. Addressing the FICCI National Executive Committee meeting virtually, the RBI Governor said economic recovery was not yet fully entrenched and is likely to be gradual as rising infections continue to pose a risk. However, he said economic activities improved considerably in the second quarter after the adverse impact of the pandemic felt in the first quarter.
High-frequency indicators of agricultural activity, the Purchasing Managers Index, that is PMI for manufacturing, and certain private estimates for unemployment point to some stabilization of economic activity in the second quarter of the current year, while of course contractions in several other sectors are also simultaneously easing. The recovery is, however, not yet fully entrenched, and moreover, in some sectors, the uptick which was noticed in June and July, they appear to have leveled off. By all indications, the recovery is likely to be gradual as efforts towards reopening of the economy are confronted with rising infections.
Listing the RBI steps, Das said the large liquidity infusion has ensured large borrowings by the government at a low rate in a non-disruptive manner. He assured that the RBI is very carefully monitoring the markets and will take necessary action when required.
Despite substantial increase in the borrowing program of the government, you can see that the persistently large surplus liquidity conditions which the Reserve Bank has ensured has facilitated non-disruptive mobilization of resources at the lowest borrowing costs in a decade. In fact, I was looking at the GSEC rates, and the current GSEC borrowing rates are perhaps the lowest in the last 10 years. And this is mainly because of the kind of liquidity which we have provided to the market.
The RBI Governor also asked businesses to capitalize on the new opportunities created by the pandemic at the global level. He said the global economy suffered the sharpest contraction in living memory in April to June 2020. Bureau Report, Rajshabha TV.
Defence Minister Rajnath Singh on Wednesday termed the National Education Policy 2020 as a historical and visionary start in the country's education sector. Addressing a national webinar on creating awareness on the National Education Policy 2020, the Defence Minister said it is the first policy in the history of the country in which 2.5 lakh Gram Panchayats, 6,600 blocks and 676 districts played a role in its formation. The Minister added that the mother tongue and local language have been given importance in the new education policy.
किसी भी राष्ट्र के समुचित विकास के लिए आवश्यक सभी तत्वों पर समान बल देती है और इस नई शिक्षा नीति के द्वारा हमारा यूथ टेक्निकल और साथ ही साथ सैद्धांतिक शिक्षा प्राप्त करने के साथ साथ नैतिक, सामाजिक और भावनात्मक स्तर पर भी मजबूत होगा, ऐसा मेरा विश्वास है।
Himachal Pradesh Chief Minister Jairam Thakur on Wednesday informed the State Assembly about the cabinet decision to frame a new policy for opening nursing colleges in the state. Earlier, the cabinet had decided to give permission for opening nursing colleges to only those institutions that have their own 100-bed hospitals. The Himachal Pradesh Assembly on Wednesday passed a condolence motion mourning the death of former Deputy Speaker Ramnath Sharma. Ramnath Sharma passed away on Tuesday in Chandigarh after a prolonged illness. Meanwhile, the monsoon session of the Telangana Assembly adjourned sine die. Earlier, the House adopted a resolution opposing the Electricity Amendment Bill 2020 proposed by the centre. It says the bill would hurt interests of farmers and the poor and also take away the powers of the states. The resolution, moved by Chief Minister K. Chandrasekhar Rao and supported by the opposition Congress, demanded that the centre drop the proposed bill. Punishment for offences against women and children, including causing deaths by demanding dowry, stalking and selling minors for prostitution, would be made more stringent in Tamil Nadu, Chief Minister K. Palaniswamy announced in the Assembly on Wednesday. Steps would be taken to bring amendments to the Indian Penal Code by taking the centre's approval to provide a higher level of punishment for offences against women and children. The Tamil Nadu Assembly also unanimously passed a bill to provide 7.5% horizontal reservation in medical admissions for state government school students who clear the NEET exam. The move will benefit over 300 poor students annually and will be implemented from this year onwards. Vice President M. Venkaiah Naidu shared the inspiring tale of Jhalkari Bai of Jhansi on his social media page on Wednesday. Jhalkari Bai was the commander of Durga Dal. This was the prestigious women's brigade of the Jhansi army under Rani Lakshmi Bai. Jhalkari Bai disguised herself as Rani Lakshmi Bai when the British attacked Jhansi in 1858, fighting fiercely until she was captured. When the Britishers realized that they had been completely hoodwinked, they hanged Jhalkari Bai. Vice President Naidu said in his post, and I quote, "The British general is believed to have said that if even 1% of Indian women were like Jhalkari Bai, the British would have to leave India. The valor and courage of Jhalkari Bai have become part of Bundelkhandi folklore. We need to explore the tradition of heroism and courage of every region to create a comprehensive narrative of our history." Unquote. India and the United States on Tuesday signed a statement of intent to strengthen bilateral dialogue on defense technology cooperation. The statement was signed by officials of both countries during the 10th Defense Technology and Trade Initiative, or DTTI group meeting that was held virtually. The US State Department's Bureau of South and Central Asian Affairs tweeted about the meeting, saying it discussed defense industrial cooperation, including co-production and co-development of defense equipment. It added that the US-India defense partnership is the cornerstone of the comprehensive global strategic partnership. The DTTI group focuses on the India-US bilateral defense trade relationship and aims to create opportunities for co-production and co-development of defense equipment. The DTTI was formed in the year 2012 to enhance the bilateral relations in defense through cooperation in advanced research and development and manufacturing in the field. The aim was to strengthen the US and India's defense industrial base by moving away from the traditional buyer-seller dynamic towards a more collaborative approach. And Japan's parliament has elected Yoshihide Suga as the country's new prime minister. The former chief cabinet secretary won the leadership of the governing party earlier this week. Wednesday's vote confirmed his position. Suga said he will take former Prime Minister Shinzo Abe's unfinished policies to completion. He said his top priorities will be to combat the coronavirus and turn around the pandemic-battered economy. The new Prime Minister will inherit a range of challenges, including vexed relations with China that continues its assertive actions in the contested East China Sea, and also the Tokyo Olympics that were postponed till next summer due to the COVID-19 pandemic. Shinzo Abe, Japan's longest-serving Prime Minister, announced last month that he was stepping down due to health problems. World Ozone Day, or International Day for the Preservation of the Ozone Layer, is celebrated every year on the 16th of September. Ozone for Life is the slogan for World Ozone Day 2020. This year's slogan is a reminder for all of us that the ozone layer is extremely important for life on Earth, and we must continue to protect it for our future generations. This year also marks 35 years of the Vienna Convention and 35 years of global ozone layer protection. It was in December 1994 that the United Nations General Assembly proclaimed 16 September as the International Day for the Preservation of the Ozone Layer. The day marks the signing of the Montreal Protocol in the year 1987. The aim of the Montreal Protocol is to reduce the production of harmful substances that cause the depletion of the ozone layer. And that's it from us in this bulletin. Thank you for your time. Good night.